Hello and welcome to Stitches and Starlight. My name is Tashiana, but you can call me Tashi because that's what all my friends do, and we're friends now. I'm coming to you from my home in Brooklyn that I share with my husband Joshua and the two hell kittens. Actual cats, not humans, and this is my corner of the internet where we talk about all the things I'm making, whether it's knitting or spinning or sewing. It is just fiber joy and wool chaos all the time. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on the thumbnail. There are a million voices vying for your attention on the internet, and you saw whatever this is and decided to give it a go, and that makes you a rad human. If you're a returning viewer, you already know what time it is. Welcome back. Okay, you guys, I have a lot to, do I have a lot to share? I have a fair bit to share. I have some finished objects, 2 that are washed and blocked, 1 that's going to get blocked as soon as I'm done filming here. I have some whips. I have some acquisitions. Yeah, I have a fair bit to share. So let's just get going. So I have my bowl of leftover yarn here, and this is all the leftovers from the finished objects that I'm going to show you because I thought it might be useful to like actually hold up the yarn as I'm showing you the things that I've made. And also this is like a fun, here we go, I'll hold it closer so you can see. This is just a fun little like summary of all the stuff that's gone into my projects. So I have 3 finished objects, 2 are test knits, 1 is a long-standing whip that I actually told you guys that I was going to pick back up. Not only did I pick it back up, I picked it back up and I finished it. I am doing too much introduction. I'm going to show you the stuff. Okay, finished object number 1. This is the one that's not washed and blocked. I finished my test knit for Alicia Plummer. This is the River pullover, and this sweater did go on a little bit of a journey. So the last time I talked to you about it, I had picked up and knit one sleeve, well, most of one sleeve, and I was really unsure about what to do. And I decided that I would wash and block it before picking up the second sleeve, just in case the sleeve was too long. Well, I'm glad that I did that because the sleeve was the perfect length. So I washed and blocked it. I think this is the one I finished. Yeah, this is the blocked sleeve, which you can tell because it looks so nice. This is the blocked sleeve. It now has a cuff, and then I did pick up and knit the second sleeve exactly the way I knit the first sleeve. I had taken out all of the light bulb stitch markers, but I knit the sleeve exactly the way I knit the first sleeve. It also now has a cuff, and then I did go ahead and sew some buttons on it. I did sew these buttons on badly because I sent me a, this is related to the other project, but I did send me a bit of a panic message about like my buttons looking janky because I've never put buttons on a thing that I've made, and she'd explain like shank buttons, and now I have to take all my buttons off and do them over, which like, so my buttons are a little janky looking, but yeah. This is the River pullover for my friend Alicia Plummer. I did knit this out of, I don't know where to hold it. It's such a big sweater. I did knit this out of Blue Sky woolstock, worsted in the color Cranberry Compote. And this took 1,220 yards, which is 300 yards under the recommendation for the, in the test. Now I think Alicia might have to go in, or not might have to, but I think Alicia might go in and modify some of the recommended yardages because a lot of people came in under the yardages that she thought you were going to need for the patterns. I think she might go in and modify it, but I'm so happy with this. Also, it is still like 40 degrees in the morning, and I don't have pictures of this, obviously. It is still like 40 degrees in the morning in New York City, so I can wear this to work and then just wear it with a t-shirt underneath it and maybe put it in my bag. But I might be able to get a few wears out of this before it gets just too warm for a giant wool sweater. But it is such a fun pullover. This is knit bottom up, which I didn't hate. I will say that I didn't hate it. I don't always understand the reason to knit things bottom up, especially like a drop shoulder situation. I think the only advantage that I found with knitting this bottom up was you get to do a 3 needle bind off, which my seam line I think looks pretty tidy. You get to do a 3 needle bind off instead of picking up stitches. So if you knit a drop shoulder, right, you knit the back, you pick up the stitches for the shoulders, you do the thing, you join in the round. You get to do the round part first, which I guess is also the fun part, is you get to do the round part first, and then by the time you're knitting flat, you're almost done. So there is that. But I did enjoy doing the 3 needle bind off instead of picking up and knitting, because that's like my least favorite part of it. Also, the sleeves do have some short row shaping. So the sleeve cap actually sits, it is not a very low drop. The sleeve cap sits right about here. I have to block this again and make sure that that is true. But on my initial try on, the sleeve cap fit right about here. So you work some short rows to give yourself a little bit more like fabric in the sleeve. This is the unblocked one, so it looks a little janky. And then you knit your sleeve. It is a very wide sleeve. The whole thing is a very oversized pullover. I think the size I picked was like 52 inches, which should give me 7 inches of positive ease. And again, it is a cozy layer. I'm very happy with this. I'm very happy with this yarn. I talk about this yarn all the time. It is one of my favorite it's one of my favorite commercial yarns. It's at a really good price point. If you've never used wool stock, it's a really good price point. They do make it in a fingering weight version in a variety of color palette, like a really wide color palette. The pattern also had a zipper option. I opted to do the buttons, and I'm really happy with it. I imagine that when I wear it, I might wear it with like the top button undone and kind of like slouchy and, you know, fun. I do wonder if this collar is a little bit too wide. I'm wondering if the pickup rate is not exactly what I have in line, but again, because I have not blocked it and tried it on a second time, when I blocked it and tried it on the first time, the weight of it was weird because it was a sleeve on one side and not a sleeve on the other side. So I'm going to block it again, I'm actually going to pin the collar out. I didn't do any pinning the first time because it was just a way of checking how much the sleeve cap was going to relax and how long my sleeve needed to be. When I block it the second time, I am going to pin it out and make sure that this collar fits the way I want it to. If it still feels a bit too wide, I might actually rip it out and pick up less stitches and then offer that as like my tester feedback. But otherwise, it's done. So that is my 7th, 8th. I don't know. I've had a lot of finished objects this year. So again, 1,220 yards for a worsted weight sweater. It has good drape. It has good handle. Wool stock's a great yarn. Wool stock's a great yarn. And now this is done. And it's very hard for me to have much to say about it until I wash it and try it on again. So hedging my like final thoughts on it until it's like officially done. But the knitting is done, which is great because the test knit's due today. So the knitting of it is done. And I'm going to wash it and throw it in my spin dryer and hopefully get some finished object pictures of this very soon. Finished object number 2 is also a test knit. This is my softly vest for Sarah at S Knits. And actually, you've only seen this once. And the one time you saw it, it was just the back. Well, it is now a finished vest. Oh, look at that fabric. That fabric is so pretty. I got to figure out like where to sit. Maybe if I like sit a little bit further back. Oh, maybe I should just sit a little bit further back because then I can hold things up. Okay. I don't know if I like being that far back. Whatever, we'll try it. I'm gonna sit a little bit further back and I'm gonna hold things up. So here is my Softly Vest by Sarah Opie. It is written for, I don't wanna sit all the way back here. I'm coming back up here. So silly. It is written for a DK weight held with suri or mohair. There's like multiple options. It's DK weight held by itself. Oh my Lord, I should have practiced this. There's multiple options. There's like fingering held double with suri. There's DK with suri. And then is it worsted by itself? I think that's what it is. Those are your 3 options. I chose to fully stash dye for this, and I did 2 fingering yarns held together. And one of my yarns is a handspun, which is how you're getting all these fun color shifts. Where's my bucket? Okay, here we go. I had to get my bucket of yarn. So here's my handspun. This is what's left of it. This is the color Whist on Cheviot, dyed by Wee Chickadee. And then I held that with some CVM from Knudsen. It's just some gray woolen spun mill CVM. And my mohair was this Hedgehog Fibers mohair in the color Sage. So I used 1 and like 1/3 of the mohair. So this is like 2/3 of a ball of mohair left. This came in 200 grams, 200 yard skeins, and I used 3 and a bit. And then this was 4 ounces of handspun that I spun kind of crazy lace weight. And then I ended up with 700 yards of it, and I used 650. So my entire sweater, my vest used 650 yards of each of these yarns, held triple, which gets me 1,950 yards out of stash, which feels so good. And it's knit on 9s. So really breezy, really beautiful fabric. I love the gentle color shift in this. This is the one that I have to take the buttons off of because I like messaged Mia and I was like, why aren't my buttons like lying straight? Because Mia has answered most of my knitting questions. And so I messaged Mia and I asked Mia to help me, and Mia like sent me an article about like needle shanking your buttons. And so I have to take my buttons off and put them back on. But the way you knit this is you actually start back here. So you knit the back. There is a double knit. This is my first time working double knit, you guys. So you have to forgive me for my double knit not looking great because I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I'm trusting the pattern. I'm trusting the process. I learned a lot about knitting double knitting. Knitting double knitting is a silly thing to say, but I learned a lot about knitting double knitting while working on this project. And I think any other project I do that has double knitting going forward will greatly benefit from me having done this. But you knit the back and then you do a bunch of increases. The whole thing is knit flat because you have this button. So the whole thing is knit flat. And honestly, I feel super prepared for knitting a cardigan now because I knit this whole thing flat. So this is my like longest flat knitting project to date. Yeah, so you knit the increases. The entire time you're knitting, you're working this double knit edging, and then you knit it flat. And again, the entire time you're working this double knit edging, and then you do the ribbing. And then you pick up along the fronts, and then you do the same thing. You knit to the front, you knit the increases, you knit it flat, and then you do the ribbing, and then you pick up for the collar, and then when you're done, you button it. So I will actually unbutton it so you can kind of see. Hold please, I'm unbuttoning this. So you can kind of see, there it is. So yeah. So here's the back with the buttons on and your double knit button band, and then you have your front with your buttonholes, and then you wear it buttoned. It fits like a dream. I made the 50-inch bust, and when I was blocking it, it was like blocking out to 54 inches, and then like common sense would tell me that since I have to button it, I'm going to lose that like 2 inches on either side, but I was panicking that it was so big, and then I buttoned it, and I was like, oh no, I just needed to button it. Anytime, this is my second time test knitting for Sarah. Anytime I've made a pattern by Sarah, it's always brilliant. Very well written, very well explained, not too wordy, but takes you through, like really holds your hand. My only I think feedback would be this is written for rows, and if your row gauge is off, there's not really any instructions. No, that's not true. There are instructions in the pattern for what you should do if your row gauge is off. I take it back. My row gauge was not off, so I knit it exactly to pattern. Yeah, I guess this is it's a good stash buster. I've knit the 50-inch bust and I only needed 650 yards of each of my yarns. So if you have like fingering weight scraps and you have like mohair, like it didn't need a lot of yardage to do this. And it just has such good drape. It has such good body. I love the gentle heathering of the handspun, and because it is, you know, cloaked in other yarns, it really like softens the transition. It just makes this like hazy, springy piece. I cannot wait to wear this. I'm going to fix my buttons today so that I can wear it. Well, once I can get finished object pictures for the test, but also so I can wear it. Because it's a cloud, and I'm not gonna go overboard with styling this. I'm gonna put this on over a t-shirt. I am in my vest era. This is the second vest that I finished for the year, and I have 2 more of my needles. I'm in my vest era. So I'm just going to throw this on over a t-shirt with some jeans, but it's such a pretty vest. It is such a pretty vest. I'm so glad I made it. I will have finished object pictures to share at some point, and when Sarah releases the pattern, I will update you guys. I am not ahead. I'm like on time with this. There's still 18 days left in the test. So this pattern is not going to be out for like probably 3 or 4 weeks. So I will hold my pictures till then, which is kind of hard because I have an idea, like I have a vision, and it's going to be really hard to hold the pictures of this till the end, but I will hold my pictures of this till the end, till the pattern is released, and I will be sure to update you when it is. But this is my Softly vest by Sarah Opie. You see this weird puckering button situation has to get fixed. But yeah, off my needles. Okay, and finished object number 3 is my traveler shawl. It's done. It's done. Here it is. It's massive. It's done. Here's my to all the yarns I've loved before traveler shawl. Now there are some quibbles. It's not perfect. There are some quibbles. Here's my main quibble. This right here bothers me. This, and I was talking to Joshua about this because this whole sequence right here is what irks me. Not enough to rip it out, guys, not enough to rip it out. But I was talking to Joshua about this because this yarn here is the same yarn down here. And what we both realized, and what he helped me realize after I was freaking out, was you go from 290 stitches to 95 stitches. And so all of these colors that were like stretched out and beautiful down there are like super concentrated and super pigmented here because the stripes are so much shorter. And it's not my favorite part of the shawl. Everything else is my favorite part of the shawl. This right here, not my favorite part of the shawl. Again, I don't dislike it enough to rip it back, and I didn't realize how much I didn't like it until I was all the way over here, and I was like, I'm not ripping that out. Like, I'm not frogging all of this to go back to that to do it over. Also, when you wear it, like, it all kind of gets like tied up. I don't want to put it on yet, but when you wear it, it all kind of gets like tied up and mixed up anyway. So like my ends are not woven in, pretend you didn't see that. But yeah, no, here's my to all the yarns that I've loved before leftover travel shawl. there's handspun in this for my entire like spinning journey. So there's a few places in it where like it goes really off the rails in terms of like look at how bumpy that I-cord. I don't know if you can see that right there, how bumpy those stitches are. There's a few places where it goes a little bit off the rails because there's yarn in here from the time I've started spinning. This is actually one of my first spun yarns. This at the edge right here, it's one of my first spun yarns. Yeah, and the Traveler just feels like a good name for this because yeah, all the yarn in here has gone to other places with me before it ended up in this. I'm gonna say that this is 900 yards because that is right in the middle of what Andrea Mowry says you should need for this pattern. And because it was all scraps, I have no idea what went in here. But yeah, no, it's all scraps. This was in a sweater. This was in a hat. This was also in a hat. This went into mittens. This was for a weaving project that failed. Same weaving project. And then this is leftovers from a hat. This section is probably my favorite section. Like these are 100% there are a few places in this that I really lose my mind. This whole section right here is probably one of my favorites. And then these are the leftovers from my laneway test. And I love these colors so much. And I loved it in the sweater and I love it here. There's so much to love about this shawl, except this bit right here, which is fine. It's fine. I'm telling myself more than I'm telling you. It is fine. Again, I've worn it out and about. I have not taken pictures of it yet, but I've worn it out and about and it does not look so jarring once it's all folded up together. Like this is just like, what is it? I think it's because everything kind of feels muted and pretty and desaturated and this just feels really punchy and high contrast and kind of neon. And it's wild that this is the same yarn here. Like if I didn't know any better, I would just think it'd be random yarn, but that is the same yarn that's down here. It's just because of how stretched out it is, so it looks super concentrated. I loved everything about knitting this. I would actually knit this again. The only thing that I did not like was this I-cord. I'm being haunted by I-cords, but I would actually knit this again. And I think I kind of want to do the same thing, just start collecting scraps. And once I have somewhere around 900 yards of scraps, or even like knit it as I go and just have it on the needles. And as I finish a project, work it in. Oh, I could just always have a Traveler on the needles. And as I finish handspun, whatever I have left, just add it into a few rows and just keep this as a background project. I would do this again. I loved this entire experience. I really did. It was my book bag project. So I took it with me a bunch of places. I have this really like cute picture of it next to some French fries. I just pulled it out, did a few rows, and now it's done. And now it's done. And now I get to wear it. Yeah, to all my yarns that I've loved before. This is my finished Traveler Shawl by Andrea Mowry. Okay, so those are finished objects. Let's talk whips. I have one you've seen before. Okay, let's think about this. I have one you've seen before. I have a new cast on. I have one that's been languishing in like languishing like you wouldn't believe. No, I have 3 new cast-ons. I have 3 new cast-ons. I have one you've seen before, and I have one that's been languishing. Let's talk about the one that's been languishing, because I'm kind of proud of myself for picking it back up. So in one of the channels in the Discord server, we were talking about like really breathing life back into some like older whips. And we were talking about, I called it like the whip down. And I was really thinking about what I had that's been on my needles that is actually like, that I actually want to finish. And this is one of the first projects that I've cast on. I cast this on in 2021. And actually old hats will have seen this shawl, this cardigan multiple times because I keep pulling it out, talking about finishing it and putting it back in the bag. Well, you guys, I put some rows on my Spark cardigan. I did put some rows on my Spark cardigan. In fact, this Progress Keeper is where it was when I picked it up. I put several rows on my Spark cardigan. I've joined my sleeves. We are decreasing. Those first few decrease rounds, when you attach the sleeves, I literally was like, why is this like this? Why is this like this? Why is this designed like this? Why am I even knitting this? Really put me through it. But I've adjoined my sleeves and I'm decreasing, and I'm actually going to get this. I don't know when I'm going to get it done. I really want to get it done before the end of the March to May cal. Finishing my Traveler Shawl has really given me some steam, and I want to get it done. This has been on my needles for so long, literally for 4 years. It is insane. Yeah, so here's my Spark cardigan, which so much knitting of this has already been done. That's part of the reason why I wanted to finish this. So much knitting has already been done. So I just have to work the decreases and then steek it and then do the shawl collar, which I've heard from multiple people is an experience. It's an experience and it's an ordeal. I have a few concerns about this. I'm never going to be able to wear this buttoned closed. I'm not doing the I-cord band anyway, but like I'm never going to probably even be able to wear this closed. I remember gauge swatching for this And according to my notes, I gauge swatch for this. This just feels like it's gonna be small. It feels like it's gonna be small. I checked unblocked. The circumference of this is 42 inches. So even with the extra 2 inches of the shawl collar, that's 44 inches. That's negative ease. I have a 45-inch bust. Hopefully blocking will do something. I'm going to have to pin the ever living daylights out of this. I'm going to pin this when I block it. I'm going to zhuzh it. I'm going to use every blocking trick I know to get as much extra width out of this as I possibly can. Mind you, I sized up on this. This is on 8s and the pattern is written to be knit on 7s. So I already sized up on it. I must just be a really tight knitter. I don't know. I'm hoping that also because I've been working on this off and on for 4 years. I have not. I worked on this for a year and then it went on hiatus for 3 years. Let's be honest. I hope that my gauge has not sifted too much, but also I'm doing the decreases around the shoulder. So it's probably the best place to have put it down and pick it back up because I had finished knitting both sleeves and all the body. And then I started doing the joining round and I hated it and I put it in the bag. And that's part of the reason why I got stuck is that joining round really threw me. But I've gotten past it. I've gotten past a place where it's super tight. So now it's kind of like smooth sailing and now we're decreasing. So the rows are getting shorter and shorter. I'm using the charts included in the pattern to do it. And I'm really excited to hopefully get this done. It's really pretty. This is Spin Cycle. This is the color Rusted Earth. Rusted Rainbow in the Dream State base because I started this before I was even spinning. And I just want to get it done. I just want to get it done. I think it's going to be really pretty. I think it's going to get a lot of use in my wardrobe. Who doesn't love a fun rainbow cardigan? And I just want to get it done. There is so much knitting in this. There is so much knitting in this that there is no reason for it to not be finished. So I did pick it back up and I did put a few rows on it and I'm telling all of you it's happening. This is the year. This is the year where it happens. Okay, other existing whip is my Northern Lights pullover. This is probably the 3rd time I've shown this here. I put a collar on it and I've done some knitting on the body and I did the short rows. And the way Sari does short rows is she has you do it after the color work. And I've realized that I much prefer doing short rows when the short rows are short. Because when you do it down here, they're not short anymore. They're like the whole half width of the sweater. When you do them up here, short rows are like maybe like 70 stitches in each direction. When you do short rows down here, it's like 100 and change stitches in each direction. And I did not enjoy that. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I didn't enjoy that. Yeah, but it does have a collar on it. So it's now starting to look a little bit more like a sweater. I did do the folded neckline. I love a good squishy folded neckline. God, every time I hold the sweater up, I just get so giddy. And I've started working the body. I am 3 inches, I want to say, into the body. I am going to knit the body to 10 inches because we like things cropped. I'm going to knit the body to 10 inches, do 2 inches of ribbing, and then go to the sleeves. It is now an easy stockinette sweater that I could take to D&D because I don't have to think about it. My D&D knitting has to be something that like I can kind of just go in the round on. So I routinely take stockinette sweaters. It's kind of hard to do anything too textured because then I make mistakes. So now that I have finished the short rows, I've done the hard stuff, it is now just going in the round. So it's going with me to all my D&D games until it's done. This is the Northern Lights pullover, if I haven't said, by Sari Nordlund. And my main color is Blue Sky Wool Stock in the color Cast Iron. I knew I was going to get there. And my Handspun is Handspun Cormo in the color Aurora that I've had in my stash. And the second I saw Sari release this pattern, I just knew it had to go in the yoke of the sweater. This is what I'm calling my Iceland sweater. I haven't gone to Iceland in January. It is now my whole personality, which we will talk about again later. It is now my whole personality. And so I'm calling this my Iceland sweater just because it's the Northern Lights, Iceland, it makes sense. This is, again, not going to be done in time for me to wear it this season, but it will be done for the time it starts to cool down. And this month, it's gonna go with me everywhere. I love wool stock. It is such a good yarn, such a good workhorse yarn, and actually has really good stitch definition. I'll hold it closer. Good stitch definition in the color work. Any sort of jankiness in the color work is because of my Handspun and not because of the wool stock, because my Handspun was sport weight in most places. And this pattern said to use worsted. And I said, haha, sorry, you're not the boss of me. So I'm hoping that that also blocks out because there's a few places where I'm like, ooh, this is going to need some zhuzhing. I did make sure to stretch my stitches as I was knitting it because I knew that this was the wrong gauge for this pattern. And I think it's going to be fine. All right, let's talk new cast-ons. So new cast-on. I've cast this on and then I ripped it out and then I cast it on again. This is a test knit for Magdalena Parker. This is the pearl sweater. This is my second version because the first version is there's nothing wrong with the pattern. It is because I knit left to right that I ripped it out. And technically I didn't have to, but I was like, it's a test knit and I want it to look the way it's supposed to. So here's where I am right now. Here's the back panel of my yoke. And I've just finished the decreases and now I'm going to start knitting it straight down. And frankly, I have to give all of my attention to the sweater because I now have 4 weeks to finish it because I started it late and then I had some issues with my knitting. And okay, here's the issue. I'm used to knitting patterns that are symmetrical. So like, because I knit left to right, but I read instructions right to left, if a pattern is symmetrical, you cannot tell. If color work is symmetrical, you can't tell. If color work, like if you have a pattern that has like arrows, I have to either read the chart left to right or just have a come to Jesus moment with the fact that my arrows are going to be pointing the wrong way. It's fine. And again, if this wasn't a test knit, I wouldn't care. But this pattern is not symmetrical. So as you're increasing in seed stitch on one side and stockinette on the other side. And I just started knitting like I normally do. And then I realized that my increases are the reverse of what all the other testers look like. And I didn't know. I realized it like halfway through this. And I didn't know if it was going to be a problem in the long run. And instead of just going and committing and going for it, I ripped it out and I started over. There's a lot of knitting in this. So here we go. Let's get a little bit closer. So the cables alternate seed stitch and stockinette, and then there's reverse stockinette. There's purl stitches separating the cables. Again, this is the pearl sweater by Magdalena Parker, and there is a lot of purling in it. It's not hard knitting. It's just a lot. The cables are 6/6 cables, so I cannot do that without a cable and needle. So I have to actually pull out my cable and needle, which is the other thing. But the pattern's easy to memorize. I'm rarely using the instructions anymore, and especially now that I'm no longer increasing. I needed the instructions to help me make sure that I was increasing appropriately. But now that I'm no longer increasing, I don't even think I need the instructions anymore. Let's talk about the yarn. This is my Tour de Fleece yarn from last year. This is Angelica, which is a sheep from Nystock. It is a Cotswold Rambouillet Corriedale CVM cross. Here's her yarn. I have two more cakes ready to go. Yeah, and I spun her fleece during Tour de Fleece last year. So I washed her, carded her up, spun her fleece. I got like 2,200 yards and I just put it on the shelf. And this pattern says I'll need about 1,500 yards in my size. So I had plenty of yarn for this. And I thought that this would be, I'm calling my sweater a pearl for Angelica. And I thought that this would be a perfect use of that yarn. A really good, like good drape, good body. Also, because there's so much long wool in there, I don't know if you can see that. There is halo. There's so much halo to this yarn. Now, is it the crispest and the roundest cables that everybody else has? No, because mine has halo, but because I spun Angelica to a 3-ply, it still has enough stitch definition that I think you're not losing the cables. You can see the cables. You might lose a little bit of the texture unless I get closer. But like, that's okay. I think Angelica's yarn was a really good application for this. And again, good drape, good body. This is going to be so oversized. So oversized. I'm knitting, the pattern is designed to have like 13 inches of positive ease, which is a lot of positive ease. I'm knitting the 55-inch, which will give me 10 inches of positive ease, which is the most positive ease that I've ever put on anything. So I'm knitting a sweater that has a lot of knitting, and I'm knitting it very large, and I have no idea if I'm gonna like it, but I don't know. I thought we would we would go for the adventure, we would tell the story, we would see what happens. So here's my pearl sweater. It's not much, but again, the last time I showed you the back of a sweater, the next time you saw it, it was done. So yes, here's my next test knit. I am 3 test knits in. Here's my next one. And my next two works in progress are shawls that I don't have. Hold the phone. So my first shawl is my shawl that I'm making along with the Woolly Thistle for their knit along, the shawl cowl. And this is the Sunshine on the Path Hap shawl. And all I have is a fun garter triangle. This is so blue. Oh my goodness. All I have is a fun little garter triangle to show you. This shawl construction is really interesting. So you do a garter triangle and then you do straight rectangle of lace and then you do another garter triangle to decrease. I am knitting this in Rama Fenul. It's on my Lemonwood like yarn holder because it's my new book bag project. This is the color 4149. If I'm wrong, I'll put it on the screen. But this is a really deep navy blue, and I don't have anything blue in my wardrobe, and I thought that having a blue shawl would just work really well with the colors that I wear. So not much to show you. just a bit of a blue triangle, but it's my new book bag project. The CAL does run to the end of May, so plenty of time to jump in. I am a Woolly Thistle affiliate, so if you do want to jump in on the CAL and you want to grab some yarn from the Woolly Thistle, you can, you know, and you want to support my channel, thank you. It's in the description box, but I did grab this with my own money. It's my first time working with this yarn. It's nice. It's woolly. It's woolly, but not like scratchy, but also like, I like woolly yarn, so like I'm probably not the best one to be a judge of this. It's woolen spun 2-ply. Woolen spun 2-ply sport weight. Comes in a variety of colors. I did in fact get a sweater quantity of it to make something else because I'm enjoying knitting with this so much. And I'm knitting this on 8s. So it is a very open gauge. Look at that, look at that. Very open gauge, really pretty shawl. And then once I get to the lace, it's just gonna be a bunch of flowers. And I'm really excited about this. So yes, this is my new book bag project. This is the Sunshine on the Path hap that I'm knitting in Rama Finul. And I'm having a really good time working on it. I mean, I think once it gets too long, it cannot be my book bag project anymore. Because the pattern says it'll be 8 feet long once it's done, which is long. Cannot be a book bag project anymore. But for now, I've been knitting on it as I walk, which is why I have it on this. So I walk to and from work and I put a few garter rows on this and it's been growing slowly. And here's my progress keeper. This is a little cup of tea from Amy Sure Makes shop, which I don't know if you really see the detail on it, but yeah, it's a cup of tea from Amy's shop. And that is my progress keeper. And that is how I can actually see that I'm knitting on this and making progress, because garter, I don't know, something about garter. I just feel like I'm going in circles and I'm not doing anything. But then I have a little progress keeper to show me that yes, in fact, this is growing. And my last work in progress is a buddy knit for Rhinebeck. Everybody is so much further along than I am. I will say that. 2 people are already finished. Everybody's so much further along than I am. But a bunch of my friends are making Hesper shawls. This is the Hesper shawl by Amy Christophers for Rhinebeck. And again, everyone is much further along than I am. So here's where I am. It's so pretty. I love it so much. They did help me pick my colors. So this is Ulysse by Derira Natura in the color Merlot. And then I'm using Handspun for my CC. This is the color Blanc Mange or Blanc Mange, I don't know, by Hello Yarn. And this is on Tazhi Bamboo Silk. This is half of it. I did split it into 2 different cakes because I got like 550 yards and that was too much yarn to walk around with. So I have half of it and I have the other half inside. And I'm really, really excited about this. So because this yarn has, it's gonna be super high contrast here in these autumnal like golds and yellows, but it does have some purple and you're just getting into this little bit of like olive green up here. And I think this is gonna be, again, because I love super saturated, rich gold tones, especially around fall, this is going to be a great shawl. Now having talked to other people who are knitting this, it eventually goes up to like 500 stitches and that might end me. But for now, it's fun. We are using a mod that Erin and Meredith came up with because nobody likes the edge. So we are doing 2-color I-cord borders, which is not like a hard mod to do. You just start with an I-cord tab cast on, and then you continue to knit following the instructions, but now you have an I-cord border. And I like a 2-color I-cord border on my shawl much more than I liked the instructions as written, so that is the only modification I made. And then we're gonna knit, knit, knit this. This is not TV knitting. This is not book bag knitting. The cats are doing crazy things. This is not book bag knitting. This is sit down and listen to an audiobook and pay attention knitting for me, because the chart is so long and the repeats are so long and I cannot memorize this. There is a universe where I will learn to be able to read what comes next based on this motif, but I am not there yet. So I am very much glued to my chart. And so listening to an audiobook and working on this is pretty much where I am. But it's just, these colors are so pretty, especially since I think for Rhinebeck, I'm going to be wearing a lot of neutral. I'm taking my Marge sweater whenever I get that done, which is gray. And I might take another fleece sweater. So there's an idea that I'm not gonna be wearing much color work. So having like a high impact color work shawl will help tie the outfit together and also like add some like life and some spice to it. So yes, so that is my last work in progress. Yeah, that's my last work in progress for these 2 weeks. I do have a spinning project on the wheel, but I don't like taking things off my wheel while I'm working on it. So once I get a bobbin off, I'll be able to talk to you about it. But it feels kind of silly to talk to you since you can't see it. But I am still spinning. There's a lot of knitting going on, but I am still spinning. And I have a really fun spinning project ongoing and I can't wait to talk to you about it. I feel like I went to go get all my acquisitions and it is a little bit shameful how much I have to talk about after these last 2 weeks. I am setting everything on the ground. There is a fair bit of yarn that came in. So let's just get in it. Let's just get at it. I'm literally putting it everywhere. Let's just get at it. What should we talk about first? Let's do it in the order that it arrived. This is so noisy. I'm so sorry. I did grab some yarn from a new to me dyer. They're red Stag Fiber. And part of the reason why I grabbed yarn is, and I did say this last time, and this is mostly true, that I'm only buying yarn if it's a base that I haven't tried before. Mostly true. So this is Polworth and Massam, which seems really interesting. Really interesting, because I love a fine wool mixed with a long wool. That's my wheelhouse. That's why I love the crosses so much. And this is a Polworth Massam blend. This is the Yorkshire worsted base. This is also on Fingering and DK, I think. It's 75% Polworth, 25% Massam, just about 200 yards per skein. And I got 4 skeins of the color Antique Leather to make, you've guessed it, a vest. Because I'm in my vest era. The vest era is the best era. I already have a pattern picked out for this. But yeah, I did get 4 skeins of this to try. It is, I think it was close to like $30 a skein. It is hand dyed. I mean, and I had a come to Jesus moment when I was like, things are hand dyed. Like I feel like in theory, everything's hand dyed because a person made it, right? But I mean, when I say hand dyed, I mean like indie dyed or like small batch. I'm gonna start saying like indie dyed because everything is hand dyed. Like things have to be done by people. So like, yes, so these are indie dyed. And I did get 4 skeins of this in the color Antique Leather. I had so much trouble picking a color. So they you know, expanded this range to include worsted weight. And I had so much trouble picking a color. I was just like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And I went with this because I think I would get the most wear out of it. Also, I'm very much in my like tan era. And I think for a vest, having something that's kind of neutral that I could wear over a variety of like underlayers seems smart. So yes, I did get 4 skeins of this. The next thing that I picked up this week, well, let's take it out. This comes with a little bit of a story. So my friend Erin at Coast to Coast Yarn Co., who I am a huge fan of, released her leftovers for the patchwork collection. And Erin's alpaca sport base, I only have 1 skein of it, and I'm making a tiny little like neck scarf situation, and I wanted enough for a shawl. And this color, the color Archer, is so much up my alley. I mean, I literally just showed you yarn practically in this color. This is the color Archer, and I did get 3 skeins of it on Erin's alpaca sport base, which is 65% baby alpaca, 35% extra fine merino non-superwash, 328 yards per skein. So this is just about 1,000 yards, which will be enough for a shawl. Actually, 1,000 yards might be enough for like a garment if I try really hard. But I don't know. But I did get 3 skeins of this with no plan. But it was leftovers and I wanted to make sure that I grabbed something. This seems, because I don't know, I know this sounds crazy, but it was leftovers and I knew I wanted more of the alpaca sport base and I didn't get it when she did the collection. And I was like eyeing this particular color, especially after I saw Marlene Knits show her sock in this color. And then when there was 3 skeins of lift, I was just like, it's just like the universe telling me that I should have it. And you know what? When the universe tells you you should have things, I don't argue with the universe. So I do have 3 skeins of this. And while I was at it, I did get 2 skeins of this. This is the color Homespun Quilt. This is on her natural extra fine, which is non-superwash merino, 437 yards, and I have 2 skeins. And I really want to get like a good place so you can see it. I love the way, like look at the color in this. Here we go. Look at the color in that. I love the way dye takes to non-superwash yarn. I think it's really fun, especially when you do like a variegated yarn, like not quite a tonal. The way that dye kind of smooths out on non-superwash yarn, I find inherently more interesting than the way it does on superwash yarn, which I know is not everybody's cup of tea. So I did get 2 skeins of this. And then while I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? You know what this needs to become? An Elton pullover. So I did get something to pair with this. So if you're not familiar with the Elton pullover is a sweater by Joji Locatelli, and you alternate fingering weight yarn with mohair and you make a striped sweater. And these two, like, can we talk about how perfect of a match this is? So this is knitting for olive mohair in the color Dusty Violet. Guys, a moment of silence for how good a match these colors are together. So this is going to be one of my spring cast-ons. I will, maybe next week, do a video of all of my swatches for my spring cast-ons because I have a few ideas. And I think I should just like cake up yarn and swatch for them and then commit either to a thing or not to a thing. So I think next week I will have a video of my spring swatches, but you better believe this is going to be in this. Is this a color I normally wear? No, that is part of the reason why I bought it. I'm trying to do things this year and get out of my wheelhouse. Now, there's nothing wrong with being in your comfort zone, but like, what if we tried new things? So I'm trying to get out of my wheelhouse a little bit, and these lavender yarns are 100% out of it. So we're gonna see what happens. But I did get this from Erin at Coast to Coast. And the last thing I got from Erin while I was shopping was 2 braids of Nebula. Oh my gosh. So I remember when Erin like sneak peeked this, and she was only going to be stocking it in store. And I was like, oh, any chance that these are going to go online? And she was like, probably not. And then when she was doing the leftover sale, she said that 5 braids of this was going to go up. And the way I set 3 alarms to be there to make sure I snagged 2 of these. These are on Corriedale. So 4 ounces of Corriedale. Erin does have a preview of what this looks like spun up, but these are my colors. These are 100% my colors. So I did get 2 braids of this on Corriedale to spin together. I have no project in mind, but also Corriedale is one of my favorite fibers to spin. These are delightful colors. This is probably gonna jump the queue and get on my wheel ASAP, and then maybe you'll get used as color work for something. I don't know. But yes, fiber. I haven't bought top in such a long time because I just don't really reach for it, but I couldn't, like I couldn't. So we're gonna do a little bit of like flip-flopping, because while I was at Brooklyn General, I realized that I wanted to make, well, not while I was there, on my way there, I realized that I wanted to make the clematis vest, which is that like asymmetrical vest that you've seen some people make the cardigan of. I realized I wanted to make the clematis vest, and I went in there and I was like, tell me what your summer yarns are. And they had this, and this is very more true to color back here. I'm gonna hold it back here because this is the right color. This is the color versus up here. This is a Little Fox Willow, and it is 70% organic merino, 30% hemp, not superwash. And this is the color Desert Rose, and I got 3 skeins of it, which is enough to make the clematis vest. So look out for this swatch when I do my spring swatches. I think that vest is going to be really pretty. Really pretty. Also, I love the shaping of it. I love the weird asymmetrical line, and I'm really looking forward to pairing it with like linen pants. And I'm hoping that because this is 30% linen, it won't be super warm. This says it's sport. It feels to me like DK. We'll see what happens when I swatch. But looking at it in the yarn, the wraps per inch of this is definitely more in line with DK than it is with sport weight, but it is sport weight yardage. It's 328 yards. So sport weight yardage, DK looking wraps per inch, yarn's funky like that. But yes, I did grab this from Brooklyn General. With a project in mind, because I don't really have very many like quote unquote spring summer yarns. I don't do much plant fibers, and I'm really enjoying knitting with Gabby's base that is merino and linen that's fingering weight. So I grabbed some of this one that's sport while I was at Brooklyn General. Okay, 2 more things to talk about. This was actually sent to me as yarn support from Kelbourne. Again, I love Kelbourne. My Gramps slipover that I've shown here is from Kelbourne. My Sheep Camp is from Kelbourne. I have a few projects in Kelbourne Scout. This is a newer base. This is Andorra. It's 60% merino wool, 20% Highland, 20% mohair. And this is definitely more of like Andrea at the Knitting PT's color. I'm channeling Andrea with this. This is the color French Blue. And again, I tried to pick a color that I don't normally wear that I knew I would still wear. So this is the color French Blue. And this was provided to me as yarn support. I am an affiliate with Kelbourne, so the links are, you know where the links are, but this is provided to me, and they were like, well, we're looking for projects in this yarn, and I've had my eye on this yarn for a really long time since they released it, and I was like, well, can I try this? And I'm going to knit it into the coloring book tee by Amy Scher. So again, swatches will be incoming, but look at this color. I'm so pleased with this. I did get 1,000 yards because that is how much you need in my size. I make the size E in Amy's patterns. Again, marked as a fingering weight, but this wraps per inch reads to me more like sport. Under tension might knit up at fingering weight, but with being loosely skeined, it definitely reads more like a sport weight yarn. So I think I'll be able to knit up at a variety of gauges. And I always find that interesting when yarns can be knit up at a variety of gauges, because then you get a lot more uses. The mohair in this does give it a really fun halo, which I don't know if you can see, but it does give it a little bit of a fun halo, and it has a really good handle, good squish. It also has good bounce back, so I think it's gonna knit up really nicely. I have not seen very many examples of people working with this yarn, so I will be sure to update you on how I feel about it once I get going. And my last acquisition, let's get it out. So again, not to make Iceland my whole personality, but I'm making Iceland my whole personality. I was not, guys, I went on this again. I was like, no superwash, not buying any more superwash, not having superwash come home. And then I saw that EKF was doing their Doppio Cal and they had Doppio kits, and I was like, whatever. But then I saw they had Iceland's Doppio kits, and I really wanted to get yarn from the Iceland collection, and then I didn't. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'm not meant to have it. And then I went to Iceland, and then the Iceland Doppio kits came out. And so they're leave no trace, so you don't know what you're getting. So you just pick a kit. And I left a little note about how I went to Iceland and how much of a magical trip it was for me. And they left me a little note in my package, which I thought was adorable. I'll show you what I got. So these are the two main colors for my Doppio. These are the two fingering weight colors, which, oh, I am obsessed with these. Now, if like a real EKF head would be able to tell what these are prototypes for, I do not. I just know that these are really cool. And then I did get some of the leftover mohair from the Iceland collection, which I keep having to like hold on because there's a bunch of paper packaging. Here we go. So here's my Iceland sweater. Now, if Andrea and I were a closer size, I know I would be in danger. Thankfully, we are nowhere near close to the same size, but I knew that if Andrea and I were the same size, I would be in danger with this color palette. I am obsessed with this. I'm actually going to cake this up sometime this week because cast on day is the 26th, right in time for a local yarn shop day. So I'm going to cake this up. I'm not going to swatch because I already have a Doppio on my needles. I'm pretty confident that I can get gauged on 10.5s, and I'm going to get to work. But how pretty is this? I'm really making Iceland my whole personality. It's just a thing that's happening. How pretty. How pretty is this? I love it so much. So that's it for me for acquisitions, which again, a lot of yarn came in. My mental health has not been great. And sometimes when that happens, I chase dopamine by buying yarn, which I know I'm not the only one. I watched Kendra talk about, if you're not watching Kendra at Balanced Gain, I'm just going to put it out there. You should be watching Kendra at Balanced Gain. Kendra's doing this really, really smart stash and tell series that I'm finding so much inspiration from. And if I was articulate like Kendra was, I would try to recreate some of those videos. If you're not watching Kendra at Balanced Gain, you should be. She's incredible. But like she was talking about like, so the thing that happens where sometimes you are not doing great, so your yarn acquisitions go up, and that's literally what happened to me over the last 2 weeks. And I will not be mad at myself for being alive in this universe and struggling sometimes, and then like having yarn come in. I have plans for most of it. We will see what happens. But yeah, no, a lot of yarn came in. And the thing that sparks joy is both sparking joy and food for thought. The thing that I want to share with you. I don't know how many of you follow Ali Makes Everything on YouTube, which if you don't, you should. Another great YouTube channel that I really enjoy watching. But Ali had this video come out about like knitting hot takes. And those are not like, listen, I love a good knitting hot take video. I do. I love a good like little crunchy, like I love a little knitting hot take video. But Ali mentioned something in this video that like fully threw me. So like a lot of the video were, you know, like the knitting hot takes that you expect. And then towards the end, there was so much food for thought that I was like slapped in the head with it. But Ali started talking about how like YouTube channels, like, especially like knitting YouTube channels, but and just like media in general, especially right now, can be escapism. And she said this thing that like has lived rent free in my head since I watched it, which was, I can't escape with you until I know that we're escaping the same thing together. And that has both sparked joy for me and also is real big food for thought. Because I think there are a lot of the comments I've gotten when I mention things that are vaguely political, which I hate that word because so much of our lives are political. I'm an inherently political person. Like I can't do anything about it. But so much of the comments I get are, wow, it's really good to know, you know, that like the way you see the world is in line with the way I see the world, and it makes me feel safer here. And I think that's the thing that I've been trying to figure out how to articulate in a way that like I could not find the right words. And I'm very glad that Ali mentioned it. And I left Ali like a comment just thanking her for like saying this thing out loud. It is very hard to, like, we all need escapes. We do. Life is hard. Life's hard. And we all need escapes. But I think there's a certain level of safety, and just general like affirmation that comes where you know that you're escaping a thing with a person who is escaping that same thing with you. So one, the thing that sparks joy is that video. Go watch that video. That video is incredible. I will link Ali's channel and I will link that video in the description box. But also if you needed to know that this is a safe place to escape with and you needed a buddy to escape with, I can be your buddy. Like, sometimes you just need to turn it down. Sometimes you need the noise to go down. And sometimes you just need to natter on about wool and yarn for 45 minutes. Look at pretty things, make cool things with your hands, dig deep into that sort of like well of joy so that you can get back out there. Like, knitting is, as much as like yarn consumption can feel like pro-capitalism. I mean, I'm looking at the ground. I get it. There's anything that we do with our hands is inherently anti-capitalistic and it's inherently resistance. And so like the idea that like we get to couple that sort of slow craft, which is rejecting productivity, with people who are escaping from the same thing that we are also escaping from, is a thing that I think is really important now more than ever. Finding your community, I think, is important now more than ever. Finding people that can see you and can hold you and can affirm you, both online, but especially in real life, you guys. Find your community in real life is so important. My community literally holding me down. Talking me off the edge on a regular basis. Find people that can see you, people that know you, people that can like love you through this, and find people that you can escape with, you know, right now. Find people that feel safe to escape with. So again, if you need a knitting YouTube channel and you need me to say that out loud, this is a safe place to escape. I see you. I don't know all of you. It's impossible for me to know all of you, but I'm here in the nitty gritty with you and I'm doing the work. So like, I hope that helps. But also go watch Allie's video because that video was incredible and way more articulate than I was this time. That's it, guys. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. By now, there's a really fun announcement. I'm going to be teaching at Flock, which is like a wild thing to say out loud, but I will be. I'll be teaching spinning large quantities of yarn. We're going to be talking about designing a sweater yarn from the ground up. So we're going to be talking about grist. We're going to be talking about fiber choice, yarn choice, how to recreate and deconstruct commercial yarns. And then we're going to talk about spinning large quantities of yarn. And then we're going to hold up some swatches. We're going to talk about like what fabric lends itself to different yarn shapes and yarn constructions. And we're going to spin for sweaters because the question I get most often is, how do I do it? And you know, if you come to Flock in August, I might get to teach you. So that's out there. That is a very scary thing. It is a very scary thing. It's going to be great. I am demoing my class on multiple people. I'm teaching all of my friends, even people who don't know how to spin. I'm practicing my class on them to make sure that like, I actually know what I feel like I know what I'm talking about, but to make sure I know that I sound like I know what I'm talking about. And also to make sure that there's like value in there so that if you show up, you get something, you know, you get something to take home with. So that's a thing that's happening. There will be other future announcements, but I do know that the Flock sign up for classes is happening very soon. So if you want to come learn from me, that's going to be a thing that we can do. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this hour that we got to spend together, and I'll see you around. I'll see you real soon for my spring swatches video. I'm going to cake up most of this yarn today and we're going to get to swatching. I love you. Go make something fun today.